My name is Candace Howley. I'm the president of the Federation of Nurses and Health Professionals, a labor organization for nurses and healthcare workers. Thank you, thank you. I also have the honor currently to be serving on both the Labor History Board of Directors as the treasurer and a board member of the Bayview History Society. And it is these two organizations that join together each year to sponsor this event, both the Bayview History Society and the Wisconsin Labor History Society. And just to make sure you know, when we are done with the event, I'll say this again at the end, but right up this street is the head of the headquarters, the home of the Bayview History Society, which is the Beulah Britton home, and there will be music and some refreshments up there. So when we're done, you can just walk up this street and do a little more socializing. So this is the 130th anniversary commemoration of the Bayview tragedy. A dispute, by the way. Some people, I think, especially labor people, refer to this as the Bayview Massacre. But it is so-called the Bayview tragedy. And we are here to celebrate this event. And we've done so since 1986 to honor those workers who marched here seeking to create an 8-hour day. Oddly, something we seem to have to fight for each and every single, not just decade, but every single day, I think. It would be unforgivable to forget the 5th of May in 1886. On that day, nearly 1,500 Milwaukee workers marched on the Bayview rolling mills and the giant iron and steel mill located right down on the lakefront, seeking to carry on a general strike. To the workers at that plant in the days before May 5th, the strike had closed virtually every major factory in Milwaukee as part of the nationwide effort to bring about the 8-hour day. The Bayview plant was the last major employer still open for work, and the marchers wanted to shut it down. This was a peaceful protest. They found instead the state militia waiting on the mill grounds. And when the marchers were about 200 yards away, the militia captain ordered his troops to fire. And at least 7 persons fell dead. Thus ended the bloodiest labor disturbance in Wisconsin's history. And it began a new struggle in the chapter for a more humane workplace and a more just society. This struggle for justice, as I said, continues to this very day, 130 years later. Realizing the quest for justice is ongoing and never-ending, this diverse group of Milwaukeeans has commemorated this event every year. And I know others will speak to this, but I just can't help myself but not comment on the unbelievably difficult time we've had for working people in these last few years. The attacks have never been as worse as under this current administration, whether it was losing all of collective bargaining rights, which is a right founded in the UN and the International Labor Organization, the right for collective bargaining that was stripped away from the public employees here, or the right to work legislation for all of the private sector employees, or the attacks on our prevailing wage for our building trades. And so the attacks go on even to this day, and more especially to this day in our state. We'd like to begin by having a song from Craig Simonson. So I'd like to introduce Craig. Some of you remember from last year. He's one of our great Milwaukee folk singers. He's a musician and a humorist, retired teacher from MTEA. Yay, teachers! He's a Milwaukee native. He's a full-time musician, has been playing on the folk circuit for almost 40 years. And I find this, he must have started at 10. He looks so very young. He's known for his vocal and guitar stylings and is a noted songwriter. He currently performs in a duo with his wife, Patty Stevenson, and as a solo artist for libraries and senior communities, folk venues, and festivals. So please welcome Craig to sing The Ghosts of Bayview, which many of you remember. For those of you that have been here before, was written by our late dear friend Larry Penn 30 years ago and has become a tradition at this event. Craig.
Thank you. Years roll around and they yellow the page. chemistry of labor don't melt with age. Blood of the workers will always run red when the winds blow a time for a change. The ground here's hallowed, it's haunted, they say, with the ghosts of the workers that came here in May, when the killing was seen as a duty by some to put down the 8-hour day. Here in Mayview, it's all quiet today, but you can still hear them call for an 8-hour day. The sound of the rifles has faded away, ghosts of the rolling mill gone to decay. Only the hall where the puddlers met still stand like an 8-hour day. It's time once again for us to unite. It's time once again for labor to fight. Tell me, what will you do with your roses and rest if they take back the 8-hour day? Here in Mayview, it's all quiet today, but you can still hear them call for an 8-hour day. To all who would labor for board and for bed, to all who would give up our union for dead, the blood of the workers will always run red when the winds blow a time for a change.
Thank you, Craig. It really does bring back memories. By the way, Larry's daughter was a nurse that worked at the county with us and was a great trade unionist and still is today. Again this year, we're pleased to welcome the Milwaukee Public Theater and the Milwaukee Public and Mass Theater to provide the dramatic reenactment of the 1886 event, complete with the larger-than-life puppets, recitation of speeches from the era. This year, both groups will be staging an entirely new dramatization of the events of 1886. So let's see what they have in store for us.
Thank you for coming today. I speak as a ghost of Bayview. I was here on May 5th, 1886. You had to be. Working 10 to 12-hour days was killing people. And now there was hope of changing that. Workers needed a voice in such basic issues as the number of hours we'd work in a given day. And so 12,000 of us chose May 1st, 1886, as the day to go out on strike for the 8-hour day. The 8-hour day movement. That's what we called it. That's what it was. And on May 2nd, it was a Sunday afternoon, like today. We marched down Grand Avenue to a huge rally of workers at Milwaukee Gardens on 14th and State. Powerful speeches were made that day by leaders like Robert Schilling and the socialist Paul Grotkow.
The 8-hour day! 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 Fellow citizens! Welcome to Milwaukee Gardens in this glorious celebration of our accomplishments. We come here to celebrate May 1st, the day we no longer toil for more than 8 hours in a single day. Last Friday, April the 30th, 6,000 people left their workplaces to demand the 8-hour day. Yesterday, May 1st, the Central Labor Union and the Knights of Labor joined to close the North Side bakeries, foundries, and breweries, swelling the ranks of our strikers to over 12,000. Today's parade saw almost every working man and woman in Milwaukee participating.
Yes.
Tomorrow, the Polish workers of Chicago, Milwaukee, and the St. Paul Railway have vowed to close the shops and to close the Alice Reliance Works. We even expect to close the giant rolling mills of Bayview before the day is finished. So I ask you, why all this fuss? Why are we walking away from jobs that provide bread for our families? The better question is, why should labor fill the world with wealth and live in want? To work like a slave and see your wife and children dressed in rags? To rise at 4 a.m., work for 12 hours, throw our tired bodies on a bed at night, to live without leisure, without rest? This is not a living. It's dying a slow, lingering torture, where exhaustion pays the toll, with the loss of a job, a limb, or a life. The hours of labor must be shortened. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours to do what we will! The 8-hour day! 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 The 8-hour day!
We strikers were in the thousands, but there were powerful people against us. Politicians and community leaders like Milwaukee Mayor Emil Walber, Edward Alice, the owner of Alice Reliance Works, but the loudest of them all was our governor, Jeremiah Rusk.
We can have no sympathy with socialist voices that deny the right of private property. They are as un-American as monarchy and as treasonable as secession. When one person in these strikers would destroy justice and liberty, the present agitation is not a question of wages and hours, but of human rights and manhood, of the owner's rights to run his factories, and the workers' rights to sell him their time and labor. When one person engages to work for another, the product belongs to the employer. The workman's claim ends with the receipt of his stipulated wages. Every citizen must and will be protected in the management of his business. Here in Milwaukee, you harbor agitators that have been driven from the fatherland for violation of laws. Now they believe they'll be permitted to violate the laws here, to incite mobs and riots. These men should not be permitted to promulgate their doctrines in this glorious state of Wisconsin among her industrious and hard-working people. The intelligent people of Wisconsin will never permit the red flag of anarchy to float within her borders. And so I say to the commanders of our militia, whenever the time comes for you to tackle a mob in this state, I'll be there. And you'll take your orders from me.
No Rusk County! No Rusk County! No Rusk Street!
The next day, May 3rd, we set out to close the factories.
8 hours for work!
8 hours for work!
8 hours for rest!
8 hours for rest!
And 8 hours to do what we will!
8 hours to do what we will!
The 8-hour day!
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 When we got to the rolling mill, we were met by the militia, made up of grocers, storekeepers, and saloon owners, people we thought were our friends and neighbors. Governor Rusk had sent them to Bayview to stop us. After firing warning shots at the rolling mill gates and office, around 350 militia entered the grounds. With no provisions, we dispersed. But not for long. On Wednesday, May 5th, 1,500 of us started out early for the Bayview Mill. We promised to close the mill for good if the owners wouldn't respect our demands. We knew that the politicians and the mayor were against our 8-hour movement, but we didn't imagine the lengths to which our governor would go to stop us. None of us was armed. 4 abreast, we walked down Mitchell Street with a banner and a picture of a clock face set at 8.
The 8-hour day!
The 8-hour day!
The 8-hour day!
The 8-hour day!
From St. Stanislaus Church, we walked toward the mill, but the militia was waiting for us. When the governor was notified that we were heading to the mill in full force, he sent these orders to the militia captain: fire on them. And so the captain told his forces, pick out your man and kill him. Shoot him where he stands. Seven were shot in the street by fellow citizens for marching in the line.
Casimir Dudek, age 30, was carrying the red flag at the head of the march. He was shot in the left cheek and arm. The lower half of his jaw was carried away by 2 bullets, and he died shortly thereafter.
Albert Erdman was shot through the abdomen and was killed at age 19.
Martin Jankowiak was 25 years old. He was shot through the chest. Extreme unction was applied to the dying man by Father Levonsky.
Frank Kunkel, age 69, lived in a little shanty on Bay Street. He was shot through the heart while he was feeding his chickens in the yard. He left a widow and a child. He wasn't even in the march.
Johann Maschka was shot through the bowels. He died in great agony. He was 24, and he left a widow and 1 child.
Frank Noirchek was just a bystander, a schoolboy, age 13. He was shot through the upper abdomen with a stray bullet.
Michael Rukalski was shot through the breast and died shortly after. He was 40, married, had no children.
And now we'll have a moment of silence while Anita Zeidler, our beloved Anita Zeidler, as she has every year, places a wreath on the monument. Last year I learned that the 7 trees behind the monument were planted about 20 years ago in honor of the victims. Thank you. That's the end of our presentation.
But not the end of the show. For those that know him, Art Heitzer donated the money for those trees behind us. And so we want to thank Art for that great donation, for a living memory. I want to again thank the Milwaukee Public Theater, Milwaukee Massacre Public Theater, for doing a really spectacular job. I'm so glad there's some children here, because I think that certainly the puppets add a great deal to the performance, as does James Finlayson. Wonderful music, James. And of course, all of the performers for their roles in the reenactment. They're back there somewhere. Thank you, folks. And finally, of course, our appreciation goes to Anita Zeidler for again being present to lay the wreath. As most of you know, Anita is the daughter of Mayor Frank Zeidler. Until his death in '06, Frank would read the names and provide us with some thoughtful insight on the important events. He was, as you know, the mayor from 1948 to 1960. I'm sure he'd be way fascinated by the current political environment. Only we could hear from him. Frank will long be in our memories, and we're certainly happy that Anita is able to join us each year to carry on this family tradition. The other tradition of our commemorative is to have a speaker to help bring context to the times, not just the past, because the past is important to remember and think about, but also where we are today and where we might be going. And I'm really honored to say that we have a former member of our Labor History Society, Professor Will Jones, and he's going to bring some remarks. And he brings a long interest in civil rights history as well as that of working people and their unions. He is a professor currently at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I'm so glad that he's back, because he was here at UWM. His writings included a recent, widely acclaimed book. If you if you're interested in civil rights and history, I think you should go and pick up Will's book, which is The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. And he's going to show us how closely linked the fight for equal rights and workers' rights are truly linked. Professor Will Jones.
Thanks, Candace. Thanks for everybody to show up. It's cold, isn't it? Yeah. So I'll be brief because it's cold. I was talking to my brother yesterday who lives in Germany, and he was telling me, we were in the middle of a conversation, and his mother-in-law came into the room to warn him that today, is May Day. And I asked him why she was warning him, and he explained that their apartment is on the same street as the police station, and so today their street is taken over by police in riot gear, gearing up for the people to get ready to go to wherever part of town there are disturbances on May Day. He said, yeah, I live in a really left-wing neighborhood. People come from all around to come and throw stones at the banks. And I kind of laughed, and then I said, that's really wonderful that people are throwing stones at banks, but that people are all the way over there in Germany are coming to commemorate in their own way the events of 1886 here in Milwaukee and Chicago. And the way in which people around the world really take inspiration and meaning from that memory, again, in their own ways. I'm not advocating we go and throw stones at banks. But today I wanted to just I wanted to talk about three ways in which I think it's really important that we, particularly in the time that we live in today, which I think these are cold times for working people. There's three really important reasons I think we need to remember what happened here in 1886. And I guess I'd characterize them by remembering who was there, who were the people that marched on the Bayview rolling mills. What did they want and what did they accomplish? And we got a sense, I think, in the wonderful reenactment of the first part, who were these people? And I think particularly today we need to remember that they were immigrants. In fact, when they were marching on the rolling mills and shouting out their demands for the 8-hour day, those demands were not shouted out in English. They were shouted out in German and in Polish. And today I think they'd be shouted out in Spanish. And I think we need to remember the continuity of the toils of working people who are traveling around the world trying to make a life for themselves and their families and their communities. And in some ways, we're living in the same times as they were back in 1886. So in one way, I think it's important that we remember who those people were, and particularly that they were immigrants. Secondly, I want to focus a little attention on what did they want. And I think we're all familiar with the slogan, 8 hours, and that this was a movement for an 8-hour day. But in some ways, I think it's more important what the other 8 hours were. This was actually a movement aimed at dividing the day, which of course is 24 hours, into 3 parts, and saying that only 8 hours is for work. And that actually we're put here on this earth to do many other things, right? We have 8 hours for rest. And that, I think in some ways, the most important part of this slogan that's on this banner here is the third 8 hours for what we will. And the Knights of Labor who built that movement in 1886, what they meant by what you will, or what we will, is that we're going to take that time to improve ourselves, to improve our communities and our families, whether that meant going to church or going to a union meeting or reading or going to school or just spending time with our friends and our families, that's actually the more important part of the day, right? The most important part of the day. And this was a fight about fighting to assert that people are not here just to work. That we are here, that work may be an important thing, but we have more important things to do. And I think we need to think about that, particularly as we stand here today as a community and we remember those events of so long ago. So let's remember who was here and what they wanted. And lastly, I want to point to what they accomplished. And in some ways, in this time, these cold times, that may be the most important thing that we need to remember this for. Because in many ways, the movement that came here in Bayview in 1886 was a failure. It collapsed in a horrific wave of repression that began with the shots that were reenacted by the players today. It began a wave of what the University of Wisconsin professor Richard Ely called a wave of police terrorism, in which working people were regularly shot for asserting their rights, in which factory owners put on their doors signs that said, Knights of Labor don't apply, not needed, right? Being a union member meant that you could not get a job in the state of Wisconsin and in many places across the country. It was a really horrific period. This was the period in which that university professor, Richard Ely, was almost fired from his job for simply teaching his students about the union movement. He was just for writing about it and teaching about it. And this was a period in which the Knights of Labor, which in 1886, the Knights of Labor was the largest working class organization in the world. It was admired around the world for its accomplishments. And just in a few years following the events here in Bayview, in the attack in Haymarket in Chicago, that organization, that once powerful working class organization, collapsed. But that wasn't the end of the story, as we know. Working people created new organizations. They went into the American Federation of Labor. They turned into politics. They helped to build a powerful socialist party that eventually would rule this city over much of the next century. They helped to build the progressive movement across this state and a similar movement across this country. And they accomplished many of the things that we are seeing torn down today. They built things like Social Security. They established in the 1930s the right to bargain collectively and not lose your job for being a union member. They accomplished the workers' comp system, which was pioneered here in Wisconsin and then eventually developed later across the country. So I think we need to take inspiration from the fact that the people who saw their movement destroyed and lived through their own cold times went on to transform this city and to transform the state and eventually transform the country that we all now live in. Richard Ely, the professor that I talked about, went on to later help to establish the system of tenure, which was ensured that he and other professors could teach about the history of working people, teach about the history of labor, and not worry about losing their jobs for what they were saying and what they were writing. And I think, again, that as we see all of those accomplishments down to the 8-hour day threatened in the political situation that we find ourselves today, once again, I think we can take inspiration, think, at least they're not shooting at us now, yet anyway. But we also can take inspiration knowing that whatever comes our way, that if we stand together in the way that we are today, and we take inspiration from the struggles of the past, that we can, in fact, move forward. Thank you very much, and happy May Day.
Thank you, Will. It's great to have you back and to give us some sense of history, but hope for the future. I know just my own little tiny hope, but one of the things I do is I represent the nurses at Milwaukee County. And we have just this week, again, for the third time, recertified our union in spite of what Scott Walker has done. So we're rising. Also, I approached moments ago, and I was impressed to see that we have Dr. Johnson with us, and she just wants to make one quick comment about some of the work she's doing here in our city.
Hello, everybody. It is so wonderful to see all of you here. This is such an important moment. It's such an important issue that you are and rest of us are addressing. My name is Dr. Florence Johnson, a lecturing professor at UWM. I teach a course entitled The Milwaukee Community, looking at pretty much the history of Milwaukee from about 1800 until the present. Since, I would say, between the years 2003 And this year, I have brought at least 2,000 University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee students to this site to visit and to honor those students who are taking this course. So I'm here today because this is a very important issue for me and a very important site. And I'm just delighted to have a chance to see so many of others of you who also hold that spirit. So thank you, and I'm glad to be here, continuing it.
So see, something we didn't even know. Thousands of students come here over the years to see this site, as you do today. I'd like to call up Ken Germanson. Many of you here know Ken. He is certainly part of the heart of our community, but he has been the leader and the coordinator and the helper and the mentor of this very program, and he's going to close out the program and say a few words, introduce some dignitaries. Ken Germanson, the first dignitary to be introduced. Ken Germanson.
I need all the help I can get. So anyway, I'm really heartened to see such a nice crowd on such an ugly day, and so it really helps. I would like to just cite a couple of quick thanks, and that's John Schneider, who is the director of this reenactment. I think they did a marvelous job, thank you. And the guy over there by the sound equipment with the red hat on is Rich Hinderholtz, who is a retired member of CWA 4603, right? And Rich began volunteering that sound system here, and it's the best sound system we've ever had. And he's put together this platform that I'm standing on, and he's done it all in the cause of labor. So that's the kind of spirit that we've got in this community. It makes it worth standing out here in the cold to salute guys like Rich. So anyway, what I'm holding here in my hand is a hat. Can anybody tell me what that hat is? Frank Zeidler's hat. And those of you who were here prior to 2006 would remember he'd get here every year and take this hat off. I'm chicken, I'm keeping my wool hat on. And he'd take this hat off and he'd say, help the society out. Because this program is put on every year and it costs us some money for printing, the wreath, helping to pay for some of these folks that have put this on. Not all of them are being paid, some are, but that's what we believe in. If there's labor involved, they should be properly compensated. Now, we're not paying them great fortunes, are we, Hamas? Thank you for your help. And there's been a great spirit in it. So what I'd like you to do would be, there's going to be a few folks passing around some hats in the next couple of minutes. So I'd like you to be as generous as possible, because we can use all of this. The Wisconsin Labor History Society still subsidizes it, so please help us out. Now, I would like to, while we're doing that, introduce a few of the so-called dignitaries. Otherwise, they're politicians. By that you mean. But these are the so-called good guys and girls, okay? First of all, we have our Milwaukee County District Attorney, who's, I think, the tallest man in the crowd, John Chisholm. Now, the important thing to know about John isn't that he's a district attorney and that he cares about working people, is that he lives in Bayview. We have State Representative Christine Sinicki, who has been with us all the way through. Christine helped squire through the state legislature in 2009 the law that provided for the teaching of labor history in our schools. And so if you guys want to come up and just walk up so everybody can see you. John doesn't have to come up here. I'll see him. Chris Larson, State Senator Chris Larson. I saw him. All right, there he is. County Supervisor Jason Haas. Oh, I forgot something. Yeah, Jason. I forgot State Representative Jonathan Brostoff. I thought he was here. Who am I missing now? Any other of the elected politicians? Okay, that's...
We got candidates. We got to introduce a candidate.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Jack Redmond, who is running for 21st Assembly, a Teamster member. It's about time we take that district back. Take that district back. The president of Wisconsin Labor History Society is Steve Kuperi, who's the second tallest guy here, I think. Secretary Treasurer Stephanie Bloomingdale of the Wisconsin State AFL-CIO, one of our sponsors here. John Gerda, are you here? He's always a member of our group. What, is he hiding? Okay. Oh, there he is. Oh, you're just one of the things. Okay. On this program, I also listed on this sheet some of the credits that we've got there, and these are the members of the committee who helped put this together. So they're all here. Who are here, just wave your hand and we'll take care of it. Now, I think that's what I've got to say. Are we done collecting all of your dollars? And $5 and $10? And I'll even take a 20. And don't wait until 2020, is it, when Harriet Tubman's going to be in. Okay, thank you, dignitaries. Okay, I guess that's it.
Thank you, Ken. The first in the order of dignitaries. We're just wrapping up. I want to remind you, we're going to sing a few songs here, and then if any of you want to walk up to the Beulah Britton House, it's about 2 blocks. The heat is on. You can go in the house, and we'll have some more singing going on up there. So I want to bring back Craig Simonson and is it the Milwaukee Metropolitan Singers?
For solidarity.
For solidarity.
Two songs. Okay, well, I feel I must at least say that I have the hardest two-syllable last name on earth. It's Simpson, but that's okay. It happens all the time. So let's do a Larry Penn song, and it's the chorus. It's a little tongue-in-cheek. Trickle down, trickle on down to me. So that's your part. The rich man loves his money. Ain't no doubt about that. He gets crabby, he ain't happy. The profits ain't too fat. Any old way he can make it, he's gonna be alright, you see. Once his cup gets full of that stuff, some trickle on down to me. Trickle down, trickle down, trickle on down to me. That's your part, let's try it. Trickle down, trickle down, trickle on down to me. Sound good? As long as my fingers don't fall out here. The government should help him any way he can. Give him breaks and tax rebates and reinvestment plans. Poor man, you keep working just to keep his job around. Once he knows that it's his role to keep things trickling down. Here we go. Trickle down, trickle down, trickle on down to me. One more time. Trickle down, trickle down, trickle on down to me. The rich man and the banker all work to change the law. Keep them working, people meet, and keep that union small. That's the way they like it, where no one makes a sound. Just work all day for what they say, some comes trickling down. Here we go. Trickle down, trickle down, trickle on down to me. One more time. Trickle down, trickle down, trickle on down to me. All right, great Larry Penn song, Trickle Down. Well, many of you, I assume, were at Madison for the rallies, and yeah, I told my little girl that we may not win the fight, but that she was a part of history. And one of the speakers that that a lot of people got drawn to was Malin Mitchell, and on a Sunday that was only attended by about 40 or 50,000 people, we had a rally for the postal workers, and Malin was one of the speakers. And he said that the firefighters have an expression, where you go, I go, that we will not leave you. No matter what happens, we will not leave you. And that inspired this next song about what happened in Madison. And your part is you go, I go, standing together. They can't knock us down. You go, I go, standing together, we're strong. Here's how it goes. You go, I go, standing together, they can't knock us down. You go, I go, standing together. strong. There's the folks in the middle, all working together, provide a good service, keep community strong. We'll never get rich, and we're always hard working. You attack just one, it's an attack on us all. It's a promise, a great solemn vow. We won't leave till we reach safer ground. And we're singing, you go, I go. You sound great. Standing together, they can't knock us down. You go, I go. Standing together, we're strong. When a teacher is down, or a warden is down, or a nurse, or a plumber, or a trucker is down, let's stand together and lift up our voices. Don't take away our rights and don't push us around. It's a promise, a great solemn vow. We won't leave till we reach safer ground. And we're shouting, you go, I go. Standing together, they can't knock us down. You go, I go. Standing together, we're strong. Standing together, we're strong. All right, thank you. Well, we are going to bring up a lovely ensemble of 14 people, and I know they're not going to all fit on this stage, but they are the Milwaukee Metropolitan Voices. And we're going to sing Solidarity Forever, which you all are required to sing on. And I want you to know that they have put together a 10 Years Together, Our Rhythm of Life program. And it's going to be featured Friday and Saturday, May 21st and 20th, May 20th, 21st, 7:30 at the Next Act Theater. And they are volunteering their time today. So if you can, they'll be passing out these little guys. And take one and maybe come and see them. I think you'll really like it. And also want to encourage you to walk down the street for some camaraderie and warmth and soda, beer, and food. I know they have sloppy joes and I think possibly hot dogs and hamburgers, I'm not sure. But just down at the Beulah Britton House and to have a chat. But they made a lot of food, so we have to go down. I know there's soda and beer, so it should be a good time. We can all warm up together. So we're going to end this with Solidarity Forever. You guys ready? Okay, here we go. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no greater power anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the union makes us strong. Everybody! Solidarity forever! Solidarity forever! Taken untold millions that they never told to earn, but without our brain and muscle, not a single will return. We can break their haughty power, their freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Strong. forever.